Hi there, welcome to I Alone Fly Tarot. I'm going to do a tarot card reading for Capricorn energy. We're going to do this 10 card spread and then we're going to read it from a couple different perspectives because everybody taps into Capricorn energy and, high vibe Capricorn is, I view it as the King of Pentacles, where you've grown and healed and matured yourself and you are a stable, grounded, emotionally mature person. And other people might try to present themselves as being that way, but they're really not. So, shadowy energy is people who are trying to create an illusion and confuse people about the truth of who they are. They might have a certain status or image or looks or social clout or whatever. They're just full of themselves. Um, but for some way, the way they present themselves in the world, male or female, people could view them as people who, like, oh, that should be somebody I should hire or work with or should date or marry, because there's something about them that either people can be drawn and attracted to in their worldly nature, or they do have things of the world that, people are looking for in people. Shadowy Capricorn is represented by the devil, which all of us in our Capricorn energy within ourselves, because we all tap into Capricorn, we're either more aligned with our worldly shadowy nature and we can try to present ourselves as not being that type of person. But our shadowy nature can be we're prideful, egotistical, bossy, controlling, immature, full of ourselves, very more materialistic and ego driven versus love driven. So that's what we're going to cover. If you harness a more high vibrational Capricorn energy within yourself, you are who you say you are. You are kind of motivated and inspired to free yourself from the devil, things within you, things outside of you that try to manipulate you. You'd probably want to be in relationships with other people who are inspired to do that too. Um, the Ace of Wands can represent all three of the fire signs. I view it as the overarching reason for the reading, which is in your Aries, your Leo, and your Sagittarius energy. Kind of maybe a little more bold and brave and confident within yourself, and inspired to kind of wrap your brain around this game of life. See the truth about what kind of manipulates you that could throw your life off balance. See how other people are off balance and tipped out of balance. Um, and wanting to live your more authentic life. And at the center of the reading is the Nine of Wands, which is Sagittarius fire sign energy, which is about having good boundaries within yourself. You have good boundaries to your shadow nature, and some people don't. And they're really defensive, but they might not want to see why they're defensive. They could defend an old way of living life and viewing life. And when they get to a point in their life where they could take that inspired action with the Knight of Pentacles underneath it to be willing to work through those issues that kind of manipulate them, which in Sagittarius could be that they're just kind of immature or they're more defensive. Um, we have to be willing to deal with the truth. The truth sets us free. And some people are defensive to the truth. Whatever it is that manipulates them, they don't want to see the truth of it. And they think, I can just keep moving forward, doing things the way I want, and maybe starting over. I'll quit this job, this friendship, this relationship, or I'll just go back and start repeating all these same ways of being all over again. And at the end of the reading is the Seven of Wands, which is Leo energy, which is fire sign energy. You know, we're all going to defend what motivates and inspires us that we find victorious and successful. And that also in Capricorn energy can be, what do I view as victorious and successful? What is my idea of something worth defending and how I want to move forward? If it's, I want to be defensive, I want to be more about myself, I'm more about me, ego, image, whatever. I don't want to have to grow up and heal and mature myself. For them, they view that as victorious and successful, and that's what they're going to keep defending. Other people learn lessons in life. They go through phases of life, they learn the lessons they were meant to learn, and then they don't want to keep repeating living their life that way, or thinking that way, or feeling that way, or acting that way, or living their life that way. You know, we were 15, 18, 21, 25. At all those different stages of life, we learn lessons. And who wants to keep being and repeating an old pattern over and over and over? But some people do. And other people, kind of from the Nine of Wands down to the Four, well, from the Nine of Wands down to the One Wand, they don't want to keep moving forward in the way they were moving forward. It doesn't inspire them to keep moving forward that way anymore. And so they kind of see the truth of it. They deal with their defensiveness about, in the Eight of Cups, walking away from a way of thinking or feeling or living or perceiving themselves or the world, or, whatever it could be. And they work through their defensiveness about, there's some things in their life that they're kind of seeing the truth of, that they should kind of put those things behind them and no longer emotionally invest in those things. And that can be part of this growing and healing and maturing yourself. I have to put my more immature ways of being, my more fearful, my more codependent, my more defensive, my more immature, if I want my dreams to come into reality, right? And then from the One Wand to the Four of Wands, the Four of Wands can kind of talk about the foundation that we operate from. And we could have had a way of living life that we were motivated and inspired by. That's kind of what fire sign energy is. I lived my life at this certain way of life. I was motivated and inspired to live my life that way. Was it just and fair for me to live my life that way? Yeah, because that's where you were at. It was your emotional maturity level. It was how you viewed yourself, how you viewed the world, but as you go through life and you learn more lessons in life, you could know that the reason you'd kind of keep repeating that old pattern, even though there's kind of a part of you, kind of a maybe, the Eight of Cups is Pisces energy of kind of like listening to your intuition and the dreams that you have for yourself. If I keep just doing what I'm doing, I might do it more out of defensiveness because of my fear of moving forward in life a little differently. And so from the one to the four is letting go of the Three of Wands. There was a way that I viewed life and lived life, and um, maybe that dream and that phase of life, I just feel like it's over, it's time to move on. So then we kind of get back to being inspired. And I kind of view the Four of Wands as firing on all four cylinders, that I am ready to be more independent of an old way of living life or viewing life. I'm going to offer myself that cup of love to believe in myself, believe in my dreams, and Aries energy is about the self. So I'm going to love myself because I kind of like listening to my intuition. If I don't do that, from the Eight of Cups to the Five of Cups, I'm not really the shadowy Three of Cups in Cancer energy, which can be about what we love. If I keep operating from that foundation, there can be things I like and love about it. We can even love our more defensive nature because it makes us feel safe from being hurt, right? But it also manipulates me, and that's shadowy, uh, our shadowy emotional nature. And I feel like if I keep doing that, I'm going to end up in regret. I need to deal with Virgo energy that talks about the truth. I need to do this inner work to work through my fears and insecurities about loving and believing in myself, believing in my dreams, working through my defensiveness about moving forward in life, having a little more hope and faith and belief in myself. And then from the four to the Seven of Wands, we work through kind of that old dream that we had and way of living life or viewing life, and things that we used to maybe be motivated and inspired to live our life like or indulge in. And we've kind of taken that back, and that's no longer our truth. And that's when people get to a place in their life where I don't want to go back using the example of 15, 18, 21, 25. I have no interest in going back to one of those old ways of living life. That isn't like that's not my truth anymore. Maybe at one time I had certain ways of living life or viewing life or conducting my life, certain types of people I used to hang out with, certain types of activities I used to go do. And I maybe used to kind of give in more to letting things manipulate me more, or the Five of Cups can be letting the past manipulate me, letting past pain and heartbreak, uh, letting my more worldly nature, defensive nature, whatever manipulate me. Other people manipulate me, and I don't want to do that anymore. Above the Nine of Wands, we have the Three of Swords, which, we live our life a certain way, and eventually, we did kind of think it was just and fair. The Three of Swords is Libra energy represented by the scales of justice. At any stage of our life, we're going to live our life a certain way, and we think it's just and fair. But there kind of comes a point in time where, again, our intuition could be calling us to listen to our intuition, because I think our intuition was given to us as a gift to help us kind of know it's kind of time to let go of this. And I might need to work through my fears or whatever, about moving forward in life a little differently, and kind of seeing the truth. If I keep doing this, it's not going to work out well for me. So, out of like love for myself, I'm going to get inspired within myself to not maybe repeat some patterns that I've already done some of those patterns. And if I keep doing that, it's going to get the same result where I'm indulging poor behavior in myself, I'm indulging poor behavior in others. I feel like I'm being emotionally manipulated by things within myself and other people, or my ego or my fear or whatever. And I don't want to do that anymore. So then, you know, after you work through it all, then it's like, I don't want to repeat that. I'm not doing that anymore. If something comes up where it's like, oh my gosh, I see this is like repeating a pattern, or I see certain people are acting certain ways or behaving certain ways. I've already been in friendships and relationships with people who kind of act like that. I'm not doing that anymore. And though I could be a little sad and I wish things would work out differently, I can't make other people have good boundaries within themselves. I can't make other people deal with their past pain, heartbreak, fears, insecurities. That's something they need to do on their own. Can I be a loving and encouraging and supportive person to other people? Sure. Do I have to get in a more involved relationship with them while they're still working through that? No, they kind of stay in the friend zone or an acquaintance. And then, so it's like staying being a loving, and you can be a loving and encouraging person in people's lives, but until they work through those issues themselves to kind of free themselves, because otherwise sometimes people want to keep being defensive or immature or self-indulgent or defensive or focusing on past pain and heartbreak, and then they want you to let them keep moving forward with you in a relationship where they never work through it. I mean, if people can get you to get in a more involved relationship with them while they are defensive, while they are immature, while they are self-indulgent or full of themselves, or haven't worked through some issues and have these things that manipulate them, well then you're kind of, we're these emotionally complex human beings, which is what the Five of Cups Scorpio energy talks about. And it's hard because we're just such complex human beings emotionally that it's harder to distance ourselves from some people when we did get more emotionally invested in them. And we can always hope that other people will change, but if people can get us to get in a more involved relationship with them, and they have some of those more shadowy traits or characteristics, or driven and motivated to be in the relationship for reasons other than being more stable, grounded, mature, just, fair, Well, it's kind of like, well, you got in the relationship with me. Why, you know, should I change? Or you're in the relationship with me. I don't have to change. So anyway, some people could have had to do some issues like that. We start out with a card not showing itself, which is the Empress energy. So that can mean that, well, for some of you, you already had to detach from some people, and they could have been people that, whether they're male or female, the Empress being a feminine figure, it's people who could have been people we viewed and they could have been at one time in our life, male or female, people who we at least perceived, if they weren't authentically that, as being more just, fair, loving, nurturing, uh, acting with character and integrity, or at least we viewed them that way. For some people, you did have people like that in your life, but maybe those people aren't in your life anymore. Maybe they moved away or something, right? And and then some of those people weren't who you thought they were. And maybe at one time they were, but with the 5 of Cups, things can change, you know. Then we have the Queen of Swords, which again talks about how we think and feel. Um, some people we wanted to be more just and fair and act with more character and integrity and be more loving. The Empress is Libra Taurus energy, and it just kind of depends on people, how anybody that we can deal with, what they think is just and fair, um, what their philosophy of life is, of what they think is just and fair, of how to conduct themselves in relationships. And some people are loving and nurturing and supportive. Some people, we could have viewed them that way, they could have acted that way, but then we could have found out they really weren't. And with the people who really were, and either they're not in our life anymore or something changed, the Queen of Swords can be that we kind of felt betrayed and hurt and maybe defensive. If we had loving people in our life and then those people aren't in our life anymore, we can be a little defensive to, and we kind of got to work through that. I'm kind of defensive to maybe trusting other people. That person was great. And I'm not so sure about other people. Um, And then some other people that we thought were more just and fair, we could have found out they were maybe more defensive or immature or self indulgent. Shadowy Empress can also be people who kind of want to be indulged in a relationship and they think they should be indulged in a relationship, or they're more materialistically motivated. So, whatever it was, you had to, and it could even be the Empress can be about wanting to give birth to something, a new beginning, a new job, a new friendship, a new relationship, and then maybe it didn't work out the way you wanted. So um, people can feel kind of betrayed. And for a while, they can be defensive in the King of Cups of taking action towards other people, because it does take time to work through whatever we need to work through emotionally. Um, we can be loving again to other people, but the Queen of Swords can also be, I've learned lessons in life, and maybe I was in my Capricorn and my fire sign energy, which I think we all are for the first 30, 40 years of our life. We're pretty caught up in these things of the world, and there's all these things we want to manifest and all these things we want to indulge in, and the world basically tells us if we do this and this and this, we'll be happy. We'll have the love and the stability and the abundance and the justice that we want. And sometimes we did all those things and it didn't really pan out the way we thought. And so then we can, we could look at life, Aquarius of the Queen of Swords, can say that it kind of forced us to have to look at life from a higher perspective and maybe quit being so caught up and motivated and inspired by those things of the world, or even some of those things we indulged in to try to make ourselves feel better, and things that we used to make more important, like if I have these things and I do these things and whatever, I'll be happy. And then kind of realizing that looking at life from a higher perspective, there's been times in our life where, because it's part of the process of life, we've all been had issues in our life that had hurt us and um, could have made us defensive to offering love to people, or you can be a loving person but you don't really let other people love you, because again, we'll kind of repeat some old patterns. And if we had people in our life that weren't so just and fair and loving, uh, that's kind of a pattern. So then we'll be used to, in our comfort zone is to be in relationships with people who are like that. And part of it can be because we are trying to work through some of these issues from our past. We just don't see it, that we're kind of repeating an old pattern. And that we, in our own way, can be a little defensive. And part of it can be because we do have some of this past pain and heartbreak that we haven't dealt with, and we didn't realize how much it was influencing us and affecting us, and how we viewed ourselves, how we viewed the world, how we viewed others, what we thought was possible. And we can all, at different times of our life, again, sometimes it's us, sometimes it's other people, but we could have had people in our life at one point in time where we were kind of more defensive of moving forward in life differently. And other people in our life, I mean, you could look at an example when you were younger that you had more mature people in your life, adults, who were saying, "Why are you living your life like that? And why are you doing that? And why don't you have more hope and faith and belief?" And, but you're young and you're not going to act like someone who's got more 10 or 20 years more of life experience under your belt, right? And then we can just know people that are more stable and grounded and mature and more bold and brave and confident than we are. So sometimes we're the ones that didn't move forward and other people moved on from us. Sometimes we were the person who was more ready to move forward, and we had people in our life that's like, I'm not ready to move forward in life differently. And so we can all kind of have this way of viewing life that we're kind of defensive of moving away from and becoming independent of, right? So, but assuming, well, we'll just kind of keep it in that perspective, but eventually we might, none of us like feeling defensive and being fearful or being sad. So eventually people don't want to stay in that energy. So they kind of do start to look at life from a higher perspective, high vibe people, and they put things in perspective and look at their life. They know their own heartbreak, their own defensiveness, their own immaturity, their things that they've been caught up in the world. Um, and then they can kind of look back on their life and all the different people from the time they were young with people who are adults, that those people were a human being just like us, a fallible human being. They all had their different degrees of being defensive or wounded and prideful or egotistical or self-centered or more materialistic or more self-indulgent. And when we kind of put it in perspective, we can, and we offer love to it, that everybody's just these fallible human beings, and I'm not going to let the fact that the truth is there's always going to be shadowy people in the world. And I'm always going, I can go out in the world today and I could meet some immature people, I could meet some hurtful, unkind people, I could meet some self-indulgent people, I could meet some sad people, I could meet people who are defensive to me, I could meet people who are more just, fair, balanced, loving, encouraging. And we can make the decision in our free will that I want to offer love to myself. I want to work through my past pain and heartbreak and my own defensiveness. And high vibe Sagittarius, like I want to wrap my brain around this game of life. And so I'm going to do that inner work within myself, which is what Virgo energy talks about. I am going to look at those things that hurt me, that made me defensive, maybe people I wanted to be in a relationship with who walked away. Well, the truth can set us free. We could have people walk away from us, we could have walked away from other people. Why? The truth will set me free. I have to be willing to see the truth about myself. And high vibe energy, the Seven of Wands, Leo energy, you're either operating more from your ego nature or you've learned to offer love to yourself to free yourself from your more egoic nature and are able then to have learned to stand up for yourself, love yourself, um, work through the emotional confusion and the illusion of the world and the world telling you got to look like this or act like this or you have no worth and value. It's like, fuck you. I got worth and value because I'm a human being, and I'm a fallible human being who's made mistakes. Other people are fallible human being who's made mistakes, and I make that free will choice to choose love and to get balance within myself. And the one sword to the three swords is working through the two of swords, which can be these things of different ways of acting and behaving and perceiving ourselves in the world, of what we thought was just and fair. And shadowy energy can be wanting to stay in denial of the truth, but then we keep repeating patterns over and over. We could get in relationships with people and we don't want to see the truth about them because we might want to be in friendship or relationship with them, but they show us that they have these shadowy traits or characteristics or ways of being, and maybe we could think, oh, I can change them. And we can do that for many decades. And then it's like, do I why am I trying to change other people? And if I am a more just and fair person and I have good boundaries and I am willing to get out of my ego and I'm willing to learn things and I have worked through some of my pain, heartbreak, fears, insecurities, and illusions of myself and the world and my defensive nature and my prideful nature and my immature nature to work together with people being more high vibe. Eight of Cups going to the Nine of Cups is I've worked through things to be more independent of my more defensive nature, immature nature, materialistic nature, past pain and heartbreak. Why don't I get in relationships with other people who are like that? But it's a process. We're going to make those mistakes, and depending on where people are at in their life, you know, where did I not love and believe in myself? And where did my past pain and heartbreak and people I could have moved forward with, I kept repeating an old pattern. Well, I think we're kind of drawn and attracted to certain people. It doesn't mean everybody that you're drawn and attracted to now is someone you should go get in a relationship with. But I think we will be kind of drawn and attracted to people because they could be the people that would help us learn some valuable lessons. Now, once we've kind of learned some of those lessons, we could still be drawn and attracted to certain kind of people. But we've already learned, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I have already learned that is not going to go anywhere. So I temper my worldly nature, my lust, my greed, whatever, and I'm not going to do that. Sometimes some people are very loving, nurturing people. Oh, look, this person's sad. Oh, look, this person's heartbroken. Oh, look, that person's defensive. I'm going to go get in a relationship with them, and I am sure they will change. Well, those people are the way they are because they made their own kind of conclusions throughout their life. And it's very hard to change people's truth. They choose to think and feel about themselves and view the world and view other people. Is truth and love the best thing to offer? Yes. Do you have to get in a more involved relationship? No. So we work through, back to the Two of Swords, of feeling stuck. I don't want to feel stuck. I don't want to feel defensive. I don't want to, I want to work through all these things that manipulate me. So we offer ourselves love. That's also like high vibe Leo. I'm going to give myself the things that I wish other people would have given me. I'm going to offer myself love and compassion, forgiveness for the healing and growing and maturing I have to do, and see where I need to have better boundaries within myself and to others, and start investing in taking action that is more maybe loving to myself and feeling more independent within myself, because high vibe energy itself is about being more independent. And I'm going to offer myself love. Again, we have the free will every day to choose which thoughts and emotions we choose to sit in every day. And there can be a time and a place for that. Like, I think like watching sad movies can help you purge a lot of emotions. Or even if they're loving, happy, just seeing how people are loving and encouraging to people, and it's touching, those can be moments of time when we kind of purge through some emotions and let yourself purge through it. But I don't have to, and I could dedicate an hour per day to think about it, uh, work through it, feel it, grieve it. But if I want to move my life forward, the rest of the time I'm going to focusing on the bigger picture. I'm probably going to live 80 years. There might be some things I would like to manifest. Some of those things didn't work out the way I wanted. I could be heartbroken. I could feel defensive. I maybe really didn't want to have to go start something new. We get in friendships, jobs, relationships. We'd all really like those things to work out so we don't have to go get something new and work on something new. But Sagittarius is about going on this adventure. Life is about learning these lessons, and when we see what didn't work, it's kind of God trying to show us this isn't working. Something needs to change, but the only person, and if we add the one wand to the four of wands, we get the five of wands. The only person we can change is ourself. We could wish other people would change, but we can't change them. And then when we change us, and if we see what could have drawn and attracted us to live our life a certain way and get in certain friendships, relationships, stay in certain jobs, I'm the only one who I can change. And when I work through those things within me that would have made me maybe even stay in something where maybe I felt heartbroken, or I felt wounded or defensive, or I was sad, or in relationships with people who are heartbroken and defensive and sad or self-indulgent, or bossy or full of themselves or whatever. I have to see the truth about myself, what needs to change. And if I don't want to repeat that same pattern, I also need to be willing to see the truth about some of the people in my life that I've gotten in relationships with, and why I could be drawn and attracted to certain people, and see the truth of how that doesn't work out. And then if I change me and I become independent of my past pain and heartbreak and issues from my past, then those things don't manipulate me the way they did. And I am like a new person. It is like I did shed an old layer of myself and I gave birth to a new me. I don't view myself the way. People could even have a harsh critical inner voice, is what the Queen of Swords can be. Why do I do that to myself? I have the free will to be like a good mother, father, coach voice within myself. And sometimes we can look to other people to play that role in our life, Sometimes people can get in relationship with us and they want us to play that role in their life. But we need to learn to be that type of person within ourselves, because otherwise we are in a more codependent relationship. And if someone's more codependent on someone else, if other people are kind of healing and growing and maturing themselves, they don't like it because, well, you're changing. You're having more hope and faith and belief. You're going to want to move forward in life a little differently. And I haven't done that work within myself, and I might not want to do that work within myself. That's why I got in a relationship with you. And I don't plan to do it. I didn't think you would do it. And I thought we'd maybe keep doing being defensive to healing, keep being defensive, keep being more inspired by the world, being in a relationship to be in a relationship, or you staying in this job because you want a job regardless of what's going on in it. And we were both going to stay more codependent. And I was maybe going to indulge you in certain ways, and you were going to indulge me. And none of us were going to invest in working through how we might be more superficial and shallow, is what Scorpio can be, or our past pain and heartbreak. And sometimes we get in relationships with people that, we all could have been sad because something else didn't work out. And so then we want to be in other relationships and have a new beginning. And we could think that everybody is inspired to work through some of their regrets of the past, to have a new beginning and come together, the Four Wands, in joy and celebration. And we kind of tend to think that other people are kind of think the way we think, and they're kind of motivated and inspired by things that we're motivated and inspired by, like, um and then we kind of find out that they're not. But so one person could become more independent during the process and work through some of their defensiveness, past pain and heartbreak, grow, heal, mature themselves, feel more confident within themselves, feel more balanced within themselves. And then the other person can be sad that you did that because they didn't think you were going to do that and they don't want to do that. And again, everybody's got free will. If I wanted to love myself, I probably would have loved myself. If I was motivated and inspired to work through things that manipulate me, or my worldly nature, or my defensive nature, or my egotistical, or prideful, or self indulgent nature, I would have done that. That's not my truth. And that's what we have to see with Aquarius energy, also represented by the star card, that our dream never could come into reality with them being in that energy. But when we were in that job, friendship, or relationship, if we were to focus more on the good things that came from it, hopefully there were some good things, right? Sometimes we can get in more mismatched relationships and we don't even know we're in more mismatched relationships. But we both could have felt betrayed. We both could have been hurt. We both could have kind of been defensive. Meet someone, and that could be what brings us more together. And we maybe could have helped each other through some things and kind of feel more back up on our feet again and work through some of that. But then once we kind of both can kind of get back up on our feet again, or work through a phase of life, you know um just like back when you were in high school or something, you had people that you were hanging out with, and could have things in common and wanted to have people to hang out with. But then when it's going to move forward to the next phase, it's like, well, really, kind of my dream, Pisces energy, also in the Nine of Cups, is about your dreams. you know I kind of thought I was going to move forward like this in my life, and the other people are like, oh, well, I thought I was going to move forward like this. And and we just can kind of realize again kind of what we our dreams are, and how we envision our life moving forward, and can be different. And with a lot of people in our life, we accept the truth of that. Oh, you're going to go do this, and oh, you're going to go do that. And, sometimes we part ways with people because just how we're moving forward, and as we go through those phases of life and kind of things that catch our interest and that we enjoy and that we want to invest more time, energy, and effort into, and what we don't want to can become different over time, right? And sometimes we're just not on the same page at the same time. But I think high vibe energy wants us to know that, you know, that really everything is trying to work out for our good purposes if we're willing to have hope and faith and belief, because there was some reason why some things didn't work out and some things did, and that kind of ended. But that's not, there's more to the story. I watched a movie and I ended up getting a tattoo on my foot that kind of has a cross with like butterfly wings and says, but then dot, dot, dot. There's another page to the story and there's more, but we have to keep being inspired to believe that, there's more to the story, that God wants to work with people who want to work with God. It's high vibe energy in the world that wants to give birth to new things. Shadowy energy, kind of represented by the devil, doesn't want to give birth to new things. We live in a world of duality. You can give birth to new things if you're willing to get out of your defensiveness, keep life in perspective, look at life from the higher perspective. Don't indulge your more immature, self indulgent nature. Stand up for yourself, maintain balance within yourself, stand up for moving forward and invest. And the Knight of Pentacles is like the slowest moving deck. It's slow, steady steps. I might do 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But it's just like going in any direction. If I keep focused on going in that direction, eventually I end up over there, you know? And so keep being inspired within yourself. Keep offering yourself truth is also like the Queen of Swords, and love. Keep looking to the future. Keep standing up for your more hopeful, believing, loving nature. Keep taking inspired action within yourself to, and the sevens are kind of like the tipping point because there's 12 zodiac signs, majority rules. I can either tip into my more worldly, shadowy, fearful, insecure, codependent nature, self-indulgent nature, and then that nature will kind of be in the driver's seat of my life, and I'm my high vibe nature sitting in the back seat, and it's pretty hard to get the steering wheel away because with shadowy energy representing the devil, it's kind of like might make us feel better for a moment, but it can drag us into hell. And so to have things worth defending, which is what the Seven of Wands talks about, it does take, in the Knight of Pentacles, work and effort, and staying focused on truth and love, and continue to work through the regrets. And as you do that, more and more you'll be able to close out an old cycle and be more and more inspired. It's just part of the journey and the process, and then getting to a place. And even if we are in relationships with people, one thing could not work out. We could get in relationships with some new people. Some of you are already in those new relationships. Some of you already had been in a relationship, and just other people were kind of being defensive, and it could have been people we viewed as loving, and it's like, why are you acting that way? And I'm heartbroken, and I feel like I got to put my boundaries up to you, and you know I think I'm going to distance myself from you, and I don't know why you're acting that way, but I have to deal with the truth of the situation. You're being harsh or critical or judgmental or something, but I'm going to listen to my truth and my intuition. And some people could just not like that other people are living high vibe Leo, your more authentic nature and life, and Nine of Cups being more independent because other people in our life, whether they're friends or family members and people we could date, don't like us being more independent. Well, that might not be their truth, and that might not be how they like to live their life or what they love. But, well, you have your truth and you have your things that you enjoy and how you like to invest your time, energy, and effort. But I am high vibe energy again about being independent. I have my own dreams and aspirations. I have my own things and people that I enjoy that might not be anything. Again, we can look at friends and family members, look at how different our lives are and what we like to go invest our time and energy in and hang out and doing things. Hey, you go live your life. I don't try to tell you to live your life like my life. I respect you as your own individual to live your own life. What makes you think that you have the right to tell me who and what and how I should live my life? High vibe people are not trying to hurt anyone. They're going out in the world, having good boundaries within themselves, maintaining balance within themselves, treating other people the way they like to be treated, being truthful and loving and encouraging. And some people could be like, well, you shouldn't do that. I don't do that. Or you're just more independent of this old way of living life. You're not more inspired to live from your ego and your defensive nature, or make your life more about the ego and the image and the status. It's like, if that's how you want to live your life, make your life about it. And there could be some people that are mad at you right now because they could have wanted to be in a relationship with you, but somehow during the course of your life, you might have went through something and you could have even communicated your truth to some people. And some of those people were like, gee, I was maybe even kind of waiting, not getting in relationships with people because I wanted to get in a relationship with you, maybe if you ever got out of that relationship. But then you get out of that relationship and you tell them kind of about the lessons that you've learned and how you've changed and how you're moving forward. And then they're like, oh, shit. I didn't think you were going to do that. I thought if you ever got out of that situation, you were going to be the same person like you were when you got in it back maybe when I knew you. I was like, well, that's not the same person that I am anymore. And they're like, well, shit, I am. Well, are you going to keep being the same person? But I don't, because it's like everybody could have an idea of a way of living life. And again, what we're kind of driven and motivated by. And people could think, well, aren't you driven and motivated by that? Want to live your life like that? I thought everybody wanted to live their life, or you used to live your life like that 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. It's like, I'm not that same person anymore. you know, I've kind of become independent. I might have lived my life certain ways. At that time, I thought it was just and fair, but I closed out that cycle. I grew and healed and matured myself. And they're like, well, I didn't. It's like, I see that. And the the difference between the Five of Cups and the Nine of Cups is the Four of Cups, which sometimes things are a missed opportunity when we could have been in relationships with people when we kind of were more on the same page. We maybe didn't. And then when an opportunity comes up where it seems like we could, now we're not on the same page again, right? And so, and you could communicate with some people as you're moving forward, and some of those people would be like, oh, shoot, gee, you seem like someone I would really like to be in a relationship with. But when you hadn't come into my life, I got in a relationship with someone else. And, those people are loving and encouraging and supportive. And could I feel like, you know, you would be someone who might be a little bit more on track with me, but the people I'm also in relationship with in their own way are kind of on track with me. And that's when, we have to see that some things have to be missed opportunities. Otherwise, we'll kind of indulge in our more egoic nature and repeat some poor past patterns, and that probably won't work out the way we want, right? There's nothing wrong if you realize that the relationship that you're in isn't the right one at any time in our life moving forward. We can move forward in a relationship with people or a workplace. And as we're moving forward, thinking it is going to be more just and fair and people having good boundaries and keep moving forward, then as we kind of move forward, maybe someone over the course of the relationship, like, I don't want to work through some of my issues. I'm defensive to that. Let's just keep moving forward the way we are. And the other person's like, wait a minute. I've been working with you in this friendship or relationship or job, and you kind of have some ways about you that I don't really appreciate. And unless you work through those issues, I'm going to keep feeling defensive and heartbroken. And some people will be like, nope, I'm not changing. If you're not willing to indulge me and do it the way I want to do it, that I think is just and fair, you know, then I guess I'm going to go stand up for my way of living life. You're going to stand up for your way of living life. Everybody could be sad, but everybody's got their truth of their idea of what the dream life and relationship is and what they're willing to defend, what they're defensive to, what they think is just and fair. Now, how could some people in some shadowy energy be doing this right now? They're more inspired to operate from their ego, and they're defensive to closing out a cycle. They have a way of living life and viewing life, and they don't want to step outside their comfort zone, because when we step outside our comfort zone, it is like unknown territory. And some people, I look victorious and successful the way I'm doing it. This has worked. I don't want to do anything different. I don't know if it'll work out. And you kind of do have to be inspired within yourself and love yourself and listen to your intuition, because you're moving into unknown territory. And that's why some people aren't going to do it. Nope, this is my truth. I am not going to become independent of this cycle. I have a way of living life. Some of them like to wear a false mask, kind of like present themselves as being more authentic and mature and motivated by love, but really it's kind of a mental construct and how they present themselves in the world, but they could be defensive to love. They might have people in their life that could be defensive if they were to become more independent of them. And I tell you, I know people who are like 60 years old, and between their friend or their family group, if those people in their life say, I don't like this and I don't like who you're hanging out with or whatever, those people will be like, oh, you don't want me to invest in them anymore? Oh, bummer. I enjoyed them. But because I'm more codependent on these people, but they want to be in relationships because they can't be in like relationships or marry people and stuff that are their friends or friend group or their original family group. But those people are the primary foundation in their life that they defend. And it's just to go invest and kind of indulge in relationships with other people. But if you ever want me to become independent of this group, or if that group tells me I don't like those people anymore, I think those people are encouraging you to be more independent, we don't like it, they will become defensive to the people they're in a relationship with, even if they married them and had children with them, because they're people who are more codependent. They don't they're not independent. They don't listen to their own intuition. They maybe don't have hope and faith and belief in themselves to trust listening to their own intuition. Well, what if that doesn't work out? Then if these people are mad and that doesn't work out, then I'd be like stuck. So I'm going to always align with those people because they're my primary foundation. So, but anyway, the shadowy people are defensive to having good boundaries because they always indulge their more defensive nature, worldly nature, egoic nature. They could think because they have look like a shining star in some way in the world, um, that people should want to be in a relationship with them and indulge them in a relationship, even with these kind of more defensive or superficial kind of ways of being, because it's more about indulging themselves in a relationship than really being independent of their ego to authentically do love. And people who get in a relationship with them eventually feel like I'm missing an opportunity in love because this person doesn't ever come out from behind their egoic nature to be let their more authentic, hopeful, believing nature out to play in the world. They could get hurt out there. So it's always more about them. I have to be defensive. I have to protect myself. And it's like there are people who are defensive to taking inspired action in their life and listening to their intuition that just because some people in my life were bossy or controlling or manipulative or whatever doesn't mean everybody is. But they're just unwilling to more authentically invest themselves in a relationship. And some of those people can like to go get in relationships with people who they think are heartbroken and defensive and sad. I will be, and they can be kind of like loving and encouraging and supportive people in people's lives. It's just that they hide that the reason why they could do it is for more how it benefits them. But then if those people in their life heal and grow and mature themselves, and then it's more instead of like a parent child or a boss employee or student teacher relationship, well, then they become defensive to those people. Well, you might have had some things you needed to change, but there's nothing I need to change. And you should stay in it, and you should quit doing that. And this is good for the ego and the image and the status. We look like shining stars in the world. You should just make it more about these things of the world. And that's when some people are like, I'm more inspired. My dream was to be in a relationship because of love, not to be in a relationship to indulge myself in it and stay in it more for the status, the ego, and the image, or to have to keep indulging someone in their immature nature or defensive nature, or, and some of the things that manipulate you, which can just be ego and image in the world, they don't manipulate me to the extent they manipulate you. High vibe people would be more balanced in their Libra energy, and the other people are kind of more tipped out of balance and think it's just and fair to be more about them or more about these things of the world. And that's why they could live more from their mind than their heart. Well, I'm looking for what seems logical and practical that will look victorious and successful. I want a certain status and image. And if there are people who, shadowy Scorpio, I'm going to get in a relationship, I'm going to have sex with someone. I'll have sex with whoever it seems to be this situation works out with. So that's when too you can feel like someone's having sex with you, but they're not, kind of more offering you things of the world than offering you love. And the Four of Cups is about taking that cup of love and taking that cup of love within yourself to align with your more hopeful, believing, loving nature, so you in turn can offer that higher cup to other people in truth, inspired by love. So, if the shadowy people are in a relationship, for some, the same scenario is playing out again. They could be in a relationship with someone who, during the course of the relationship, healed and grew and matured themselves, was ready to move forward, and then they're like, no. For some, they create the illusion they're willing to get in a more formal commitment, is what the Four of Wands and the King of Pentacles in Capricorn can mean. And they're like, well, no, I just created the illusion I was willing to do that. I wasn't really going to do it. And then I'm hoping, because you're heartbroken, you're kind of defensive, to go and have a new beginning, that you'll be sad and stay in it anyway and kind of indulge doing it my way. You're either being authentic when you get in a relationship, or you're kind of trying to confuse people about the truth, and then hoping, just because people want to be in friendships, relationships, or a job, that even if people start to act kind of shadowy or things don't work out and go the way they said it would or gave the impression it would, that you won't go anywhere anyway. And some high vibe people are like, I'm not giving up my dreams. And yeah, could I be angry? Could I be upset? Well, I worked through it all and I realized, my dream couldn't ever come into reality with them anyway. And this was me as part of my journey. And when I accept the truth of it, I can detach from it. And then I can move forward to go get in relationships with people that are the next people for me to learn lessons from that are part of my journey. But my dreams can only come in and I can only really have a victory worth defending if I'm in relationship with people who are motivated and inspired by love and being more just and fair. And love is to be just and fair. And it isn't supposed to be trying to manipulate people and deceive people and use the love that they have for you to try to manipulate them. Or, you know, if you're going to go out in the world and have the idea, I'm going to go present myself as a loving person, then you should be a loving person. But some people think, well, no, I just have to act like I'm a loving person. And I'm sure there's other people in the world that are heartbroken and defensive and sad that'll want to be in a relationship with me, and I'll offer them more of these things of the world. And if they can find people, everybody's got free will, and there's other people in the world that are like, I don't want to deal through my issues either. I might not really want to do love. I could get hurt doing love. I'm kind of defensive to love. I might be more motivated and inspired to look like a shining star in the world. Do you have some of the status and the ego and the image? Yeah, I'll indulge you in a relationship. Works for me. And then, sometimes we can meet people and you kind of feel like it is a more superficial, shallow relationship or maybe a more immature relationship. But, everybody, because some people can be defensive and really not get along well. Other people can seem to get along fine. It's just that they are maybe more immature people. And that's fine. I'm glad you found each other. You know, we all kind of hang out with people that are on the same emotional maturity level as us. What's coming up for some people who harness some high vibe Capricorn? The Knight of Pentacles and the World, investing in closing out a cycle and learning lessons in life. The King of Wands, the Strength card, the Seven of Cups, and not showing the Ten of Swords. And the reason is because of the King of Cups. Well, the high vibe people made the decision to offer love to the situation, and love is the answer. You offered love to yourself and others, and the people in the world who said, nope, that's not my truth, or didn't really take action in truth, aren't investing in you to move forward with you. You wish them peace and love, and you invest in the people in your life, in yourself, and other people who do. Closing out a cycle with people who harness this energy in a shadowy way. Shadowy King of Wands, shadowy Leo, shadowy Seven of Cups, hiding the Ten of Swords. People who are more motivated and inspired to operate from their ego nature, their defensive nature, and who just create illusions in relationship, who are hiding that they really aren't aligned with their loving nature. I'm closing out cycles with people like that and people who aren't inspired to temper their ego, who have these illusions about what it means to be in a relationship. And instead, you're going to harness that energy in a high vibe way, and you're going to be inspired to temper your ego about ending those and looking to the future. And because you offered love to it, if we offer the cup of love, we get the Seven of Cups. So you had to offer love to the Six of Cups. And the Six of Cups can talk about making peace with the past. I've reconciled myself with some of those issues from my past, and I'm ready to have a new beginning. I'm not going to stay feeling backstabbed and betrayed or living more from my mind than my heart. And I'm not going to sabotage myself. And I'm not going to let other people who aren't investing in me stop me from believing in my dreams. If they're not working together with me in an emotionally mature, truthful, authentic, loving, tempered, balanced way, They weren't people I could have my dream come into reality with anyway. And what some people don't know about you is you have closed out a cycle, is what the tens can talk about. Other people just don't know that you've closed out a cycle. They're because sometimes shadowy people, because they have a lot of things that manipulate them, and they aren't maybe more independent and maybe haven't learned to love and believe in themselves and temper their own fears and insecurities, they could just think you're putting on a really good show. They might not understand how you're doing it. It's like, how are they doing that? They seem to be moving forward. They seem like they've closed out a cycle. But because they just create an illusion in the world and try to manipulate people into thinking they're more stable, grounded, tempered, and mature than they are, they think you're doing that too. And what they don't get is you learn the lesson. The Ten of Swords talks about learning a lesson to go have this new beginning. You work through your defensiveness, your wounding, you're having a new Ace of Wands beginning. And then you're closing out a cycle emotionally to go have a new beginning. And you detach from an old foundation with the Knight of Pentacles. You are firing on all four cylinders. And Capricorn is a cardinal sign, which is, and I view the King of Cups as Cancer energy, which also is a cardinal sign, which can be the ones we tap into to have new beginnings. Libra is a cardinal sign. The King of Wands and Aries is a cardinal sign. In your more worldly, emotional, mental, worldly, you are firing on all four cylinders. You are ready to have a new beginning. It's just that some people think you're still, you might be defensive to them so they could think you're still heartbroken, you're still sad, you're still, just like they could think you in turn are trying to manipulate them, but you're not. You've moved on from some of those people. For other people, the door might be open. Hey, you ever grow up and mature yourself, friend, family, whoever, let me know. You're staying in the energy of love. But high vibe people probably would have already spoken their truth in love. And if other people were defensive and moved forward in whatever they were moving forward with, you accept the truth of it and you move on. God must have something else planned for me. I'm going to go on this adventure and find out what it is. And I'm going to stand up for what I'm motivated and inspired by. And other people can stand up and defend what they're motivated and inspired by. What's coming up for the people who... Oh, and I think as you go out in the world, having learned these lessons, kind of grown and healed and matured yourself in whatever ways you needed to be, or see the truth of what you don't want to be in a relationship with, or ways of living life, you're offering that to the world in love. And you're offering truth and love to the world. And I think as you do that, other people see the truth of it, and other people are going to want to be in friendship or relationship with you. Other people in the world are in that energy. Now you have to be aware there's always going to be shadowy people who want to be the next person to indulge in a relationship with you. And I think as you move forward, again, you'll have good boundaries, you'll get to know people, but if people show you that they harness this energy in a more shadowy way, kind of wearing a false mask, a little bit more about themselves or a little more defensive, yeah, you could be sad as like, damn. But I'm not going to repeat an old pattern, and my intuition that I'm now listening to tells me that we're not on the same page. So I'm not willing to give up my dream. I'm going to keep waiting for the people who are the right people to be more in friendship and relationship with. And then some of those people will be mad. It's like, oh, well. I offered to work together with you in a more just and fair and balanced and loving way, but you seem to kind of be defensive to that. What's coming up for the people who harness a more worldly, shadowy Capricorn energy that they might not see coming? The Ace of Cups, the Strength card, the Chariot, and the reason is because of the Six Swords. Well, the shadowy people keep emotionally investing in repeating this old pattern in Aquarius energy. They have their truth that they love that kind of drives and motivates how they live their life, which is operating more from their ego. And so, harnessing these energies in a shadowy way, they operate more from their ego. And it's more this idea I will present myself as being more tempered in my ego and that I am more emotionally balanced and loving. But that's just, again, a way of presenting themselves in the world. And because they keep repeating that pattern, they're always going to have people in their life that harness this energy in a more high vibrational way that wanted to be in a relationship with them and move things forward, but they wanted it to be based on truth and love. And eventually, some of those people see the truth and they work through their mental conflict about it and they wish them peace and they move on. And then those people will kind of be in their ego about it, like, why didn't they stay in a relationship with me? I look a certain way, I have a certain status or image, or I was willing to have sex with them, or I was willing to indulge them. Because the other people want to be in more emotionally balanced, authentic, loving relationships. And these people live more from their mind and their ego. And you can't have a more emotionally balanced, loving, balanced relationship with someone like that. And they're going to go find people who are in that same energy as them. And since these people are defensive to being inspired within themselves to work through whatever it is that makes them think the way they do, live life the way they do, behave the way they do, eventually the people they surround themselves are other people like them who are also defensive. And they'll probably find other people who are willing to be in friendship and relationship. Hey, this looks victorious and successful. Um, Maybe you don't require me to be more independent. Great. I don't like being more independent. Maybe I am more codependent. You don't require me and maybe don't want me to work through my past pain and heartbreak because it keeps me um, being more defensive, like you. Let's stay in a relationship because we're both defensive. Defensive to love, defensive to the truth. Let's keep defending, operating from our more egoic nature. This makes logical, practical sense. And they could look very victorious and successful as they move forward in their life. It's just that theirs is more motivated from the mind, and the other people are really more motivated by love. And everybody has the free will to manifest whatever type of relationship they want. And if you aren't happy in it, if they can find someone else who's like, yeah, I'm happy in this works for me, or even if I'm not happy, I'll stay in it. It's like, that's their free will. And you weren't happy in it. You could have even felt backstabbed in it. Like, this isn't my truth. You thought it was, but as time went by, you realized it wasn't. And you weren't willing to kind of live a life of illusion. I want to be in friendship and relationship with people who are being authentic, who are loving and encouraging and supportive. I, in turn, like to be loving and encouraging to people, and I don't want people to try to manipulate me or to stop me from loving and believing in myself. It's kind of like high vibe people kind of want to grow to their full potential, be able to be more authentically themselves, maybe not make their life more about conforming to the world, and maybe don't have a harsh, critical inner voice. And if they had people in their life who are more harsh and critical and judgmental, they've kind of let those people hang out with some people, but the other people could still hang out with people who are like that and have that own harsh, critical inner voice in their own head. It's like, as long as those things manipulate those people and they in turn have certain ways of conducting and viewing life and conducting themselves, I'm not interested. I wish you peace and I'm moving on. So there you go, Capricorn. I wish you peace, love, and joy, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.